It must be. It just told me. And a couple more people in here. All right. We do have a couple of guests coming in, so I'm going to rearrange the, if I will. First of all, board, would you like me to facilitate your meeting this evening?
Yes, please.
Please.
Okay, I'll recognize that we do have a quorum, so we'll start the meeting at 6:02 p.m. And we have gate proposals to look like, and I invited a couple of the companies who were able to attend. So Access Gates is in the wings, and I'm going to have him come in. And then I asked Park Pro to be here at about 6:15. So first, I'll make sure Park Pro, you're not in the room, are you? Okay. Robert from Access Gates, I know isn't, because I can see him in the waiting room. So I'm going to ask Access Gates to join us. He can give you a couple minutes on it, and it's really the opportunity for the board to ask questions on the proposal. So this is, by the way, for homeowners, this is gate operator replacement for the Parkcrest gates. So Robert's coming in now. All right, Robert, if you can hear us, I think you're in. Nope, you don't have audio yet. I see he's in the room, but no audio, but his camera is there. I'm letting him know that. There's a couple more people in the waiting room letting in. Well, we're not having, oh, there you go. Robert, you have audio now?
Yep.
There you go.
I got you. Sorry about that.
Right. Robert is with Access Gates, and he is one of the gate companies that gave us a proposal for the Parkcrest gates. Board, have you had a chance to review that?
Yes.
Robert, you want to give us a 1 or 2 minute elevator pitch on your proposal, please?
Yeah, that's not a problem. So I have proposed the max swing gate or max control swing.
Not locking it because you're in it.
Okay, just a minute. Could everybody please mute while we're having a presentation? Okay, go ahead, Robert.
All right. So I have proposed the max control swing gate operators. They're the 2200 HP swing gate operators. They are rated for a heavier swing gate. They have a smaller one that is a 1500, but those would be inadequate for these gates and the size of gates that are on this site. Basically, these operators have a built-in battery backup. They have 2 batteries per operator. I have also proposed the UL 325 required safety devices. And basically what those are, we have to protect the closed swing path of each gate and any entrapment area where the gate would swing up against something or up against a curb within 16 inches. Both gates have curb lines that they swing up against that we would have to put some kind of sensor on there. And what that sensor does is basically protect for anybody that would be standing there in the travel path. Basically, if it were to bump up against somebody, the gate would stop and reverse in direction. The existing equipment does not require those because they were installed prior to the regulations coming out in January of 16. So basically, as an installer, we have to ensure that all entrapment areas are covered. The minimum that is required for the gate operators to even run is a protection or entrapment device for the closed swing of the gate. Typically, when you have gates that swing in one direction, both of them traveling in the same direction, you could put a photo eye across the drive, and that would be, and a photo eye is basically what your garage door opener has with that infrared beam that goes over to protect that area. So if somebody were to walk through and break that beam, it would stop the gate and reverse it. With the way this gate setup is, that they are independent gates and they swing in opposite directions, the photo eyes are not able to be used at this setup. Because if you had photo eye shooting across the drive, the others, one swing gate would block the photo eye for the other swing gate, basically. So I have the gate edge sensors on the closed swing upright of each gate that is also acceptable for the UL regulations. I have also, excuse me, I've also proposed to do the vehicle loops on the entrance side. I know we did the exit side loops due to them being faulty, I believe early last year. With obviously replacing the equipment, this would be the ideal time to replace those. Obviously, if you spend X amount of dollars on the equipment, and all of a sudden you have loops going bad, you know, on that entrance side, 2 months down the road, obviously you're going to be looking at me saying, why didn't we do those? But obviously it's not a must. Those are working, but I would highly recommend doing those at the same time. So that way you have new equipment with new in-ground vehicle sensing loops all across the board. Also in this proposal that I have proposed re-anchoring the phone unit pedestal that's out there. We straightened it, I believe, last year because it had been hit and knocked sideways. Basically, I have proposed to jackhammer out the footing of that as the whole concrete ball is loose, and basically pour a new footing up against the curb line there to restabilize that pedestal. I have also proposed to install a new entry unit. It is obviously optional. I believe that we had discussed, Harmon and I had discussed early on in the year that there possibly had been some interest in changing that out. So I did have that in my proposal.
What's the entry? What's an entry unit?
Basically, it's the Door King entry unit that's out there.
It's the keypad, the entry
keypad,
phone thing. Okay,
correct.
that's what, make sure
Correct.
what people knew. All right.
Yeah, so it's the keypad. You have the existing Door King that's there. It's basically just a keypad with the phone line to it. Guests can call the resident and the resident can let them in. The one that I have proposed is a cell gate entry system. There's actually not a physical keypad there. It's a color touch screen that has an onboard camera as well. The camera is activated when a guest pulls up and dials a certain resident. If people have the smartphone app, they can see who's in front of the unit when they're called. And it's basically a FaceTime app or a FaceTime video that will show who's in front of the unit and who's requesting entrance to the property. You can see them, but they can't see you, but you guys can talk back and forth. If you decide to grant access, you can hit accept and it'll open the gate and hang up the call. If you do not wish to, you can hit decline just like it is now, and it would hang up and not grant access. Also a feature of the app, there is also you can use it as a credential, and as a credential, I mean it as like a remote. You can grant access to yourself through the app on your phone. So you can open the gate as you're approaching it and it would open up just like your remote would. So there's some cool features on it. If, obviously people don't want to use the app, they could use the standard remote that everybody has. I'm not quite sure, Harmon, what kind of remotes they typically have here, or if they even have remotes.
Yeah, they have micro clicks.
Okay, so that's right. So basically micro clicks are standalone. They're not programmed in, so you don't know who's coming in or out with remotes. And that's why where to go here? Sorry, I got my computer up here. I have a Dorking Micro Plus receiver in my proposal as well that goes with that entry unit. Whether we do the new entry unit or if you guys decided to stick with the Dorking entry unit, this receiver would allow remotes to be programmed into the entry or telephone entry unit where you could see who's coming in when they press the remote.
Yeah, maybe I was wrong. Maybe we have micro pluses because we can do that now.
You can do that now? So
Yeah,
I'd say, I know there is.
we program them
Gotcha. Okay,
for
perfect.
individual.
So you can keep that. So we could eliminate that off the as a line item, and basically that would wire into either the new unit or keep it on the existing unit.
Okay, I'm
If
gonna
you guys
cut
already-
you. Anything else majors? I want to let some board members ask questions. We didn't have that much
Nope.
time.
Go right ahead.
Please, board. Go ahead.
How much is that line item that would come out?
That line item is like 265 for just the receiver.
Okay, thank you.
Don, do you consider this proposal a turnkey operation?
Turnkey, as you're not going to have any more issues or anything along those lines?
As in, you've looked us over and it's going to handle those heavy gates. And when you're done, we're going to be happy for another 5 or 10 years.
That's the goal. Yes, these operators that obviously have served their purpose that you have there on the site, they're kind of getting torn apart by the size of those gates. You're with the size and the lengths, or the weight, I should say, of these gates and the length, you're not going to get a typical life expectancy out of pretty much any operator you put in. They're going to start tearing operators apart in that probably 8 to 12 year range. Might get a little bit more time out of them, just depending on the use. Obviously, I know it's a smaller community, but yes, with going with new equipment, you're going to have minimal issues moving forward. I know also I kind of forgot to bring up, we had talked, Harmon, the other proposal to shorten the gates because those gates are actually too long for that opening. So that other proposal, I don't know if you got that in there, Harmon.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later. I
Okay.
thought it was included in there. There's a separate proposal to do some welding and cutting. And does that include hinges?
Yes.
And that was $1,500 that I have a
And that was a
proposal
cut.
for.
That was to cut one gate leaf down a couple inches so they wouldn't be touching and binding up on each other
Right.
in the center of the driveway there.
Any other questions, board? Okay. Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate you coming and explaining your proposal.
Not a problem, Harmon. If you guys have any more questions, obviously you can forward those along to Harmon. I would be gladly to answer for you guys.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll wait for Robert to go. I will ask him to go.
Right.
And the next one, Park Pro, is another company that we had give you a proposal for the gates. And the representative Park Pro, Tony, is in the waiting room, and I'm going to ask Tony to come in. Any comments or anything you want to say before I ask Tony to come in? Okay. He's not audioed yet. He's syncing up, it looks like, on the computer.
There he is.
There you are. Tony, thank you very much for being here and being on time. Thank you very much. So we have the board and we have about 20 homeowners or so, 25 to hear your proposal. So the board, have you reviewed the Park Pro proposal?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Tony, why don't you give us the couple-minute elevator pitch on your proposal, and then the board can ask you some questions.
So the proposal is to replace the gate entry operators. Your community, they look like they're kind of broken right now. So they're going to be LiftMaster CSW operators and the plug-in detectors. The plug-in detectors are the devices that go inside of the unit to send the pulse through the loop, so they detect cars to prevent them from, so the loops will prevent the gates from hitting cars, whatever it is. They're a safety device. It's pretty feature. I saw them that they were cutting your asphalt as well too. So I gave you an option for the HDSW because of the size of your gates. If you wanted, because right now you guys have what's called the Elite CSW dual motors. That was the heavy duty operator back in the day, no longer being made, but the HDSL is the equivalent to that operator. Just if that was an option that you guys had.
Okay, board, do you have any questions?
Any changes or upgrades that you think we should make to the system while we're at this juncture?
Because we don't do the service on your gates. If your loops are having problems, that's one of those things that I also gave you another option for, would be to put in new loops as well too, cut those in the asphalt. That's another option. If you're in, I mean, there's various other upgrades. If you guys want modern technology for call boxes, if you want, you know, or you got your call box probably works. If you guys wanted to add RFID, which is the stickers on your car so you can drive right through without a clicker or remote, those are also options that we could add at this point. But you get gates, it's pretty much, they're all peripheral components. So it's a matter of what you guys are looking at adding compared to what you guys really, I mean, what you want. So those are all options that you could add it. I mean, and they're working with any system out there.
Okay, thank you.
Board, any other questions for Tony? Okay, short and sweet. Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate you being on the call today.
Not a problem. It's a lot shorter than the last one I just got off of.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Tony.
Bye-bye. Okay, Tony is not in the meeting anymore. Board, I emailed you just a little while ago a last minute proposal I received from Signature Gates because I went out to 4 different companies to get bids. One of them said they wanted $500 to come out and look at it. So obviously we didn't do that one. And Signature Gates, Park Pro, and Access gave proposals. Signature showed up today with a proposal. So I emailed it to you. It's not on the, and I didn't give them the opportunity to come to the meeting. Access Gates is the company that has been maintaining your gates for the last couple of years. So they were the more knowledgeable company because they have been maintaining it. In fact, when the gate broke about a couple of weeks ago, when the motor shaft, it was a keyway on the motor shaft broke. They went out there last week and I talked with, and it was Robert, you know, how to temporarily fix it. Can you weld a keyway in? Can you stick a big screw in it somehow? So he was able to do some temporary fix. I said, it just has to work until we get new motors. You know, it's not a permanent, and they were able to. So the gate, the one leaf has been operating in the last week and a half or so since he did a temporary fix. So we think he'll hopefully hold a month or so. So there's a comment of where we're at with the gates. Any, you want to have a discussion about these? You want to reserve, you want to review them more, come up with some questions I can email, or are you ready to make a decision, board?
So Harmon, Access is twice as much on their bid I don't know anything about these, but are they offering something better as far as operators or, you know, anything?
Well, because of that difference in price, that's why I asked them to come, and Access is line itemed out of what each line item is. So that's why he said, you know, he's adding this and this and this and this. If we pare down the new call box and the other detector things, they get, I think, more apples and apples if you want to compare it that way. Access, I believe, is a heavier duty. I'm not trying to sell either one, so I'm really trying to be a neutral party here, but this is what I understand the differences are. Access is a heavier duty operator than what you have now. And I believe Park Pro, as he said, is giving you the newer equivalent operators to what we have now. So I think there's a price differential there.
And
Okay.
another thing that I thought I saw in reading the 2 proposals was that that Park wanted to get us a nice low price, but they allowed us how, hey, there's a $5,000 thing you might want to add here and a $3,000 thing there. Ergo, my question to Access as to whether or not they thought it was turnkey. They go in and do what is on the proposal and they're done, and which is what he said.
Well, Harmon, I'd like to understand who's paying for this. Since this is the gated community, will this money come out of the
Good
general
question.
fund for everybody, or just the collections from the gated community?
Excellent question. The funds for these come directly out of the Parkcrest. Parkcrest has their own reserve fund that they contributed their money to. They pay a differential. They pay a second rate or a higher rate for their 18 houses on the Parkcrest Road, and that reserve fund on their road or for that gated area pays for the gates and pays for the paving of that road and the maintenance of the road. So this is 100% paid for by those 18 homes.
Okay, are any of those 18 homeowners on the call right now?
I don't know if they would identify themselves and say hi. That'd be great.
Yeah, Kyle Boyer. I'm at 654 Parkcrest. I'm on the call.
Can you guys share some granularity of what it's like to live with that gate not working? And do you think you and your neighbors would be willing to pay for this to get it fixed?
I believe we've been in discussion with each other. We've known of the gate issues for quite some time now. It's been a lot of Band-Aids over the last, especially year or so. I think everybody is kind of more than willing and ready to get a ideal solution moving forward. I'm not in a position to speak for the other residents per se, but I do know through some informal conversations that any updates that are cost effective and reasonable would be ideal, so that the money that we are putting towards this gate replacement is hopefully going to last as long as we can make it last. So I guess we're looking for the best value. If there are updates or upgrades that make sense, especially replacing the vehicle sensors in the pavement, if that's going to be something that's going to be a problem down the road and it's easier to do it as a package deal, I think that would probably be the best going forward, in my opinion, as well as the updates with possibly the call box. I did happen to hear the option about having a video conference through the app on a phone, and I think that would be very beneficial. We do get a lot of package drivers. We've got quite a bit of contractor activities that's going through the gate, so it would be nice to be able to have some identity to that before we just handing out a code to somebody that they can access the gate at any time if they bother to jot down the code is kind of counterintuitive to having a gate.
Okay, that's very good input. Thank you. Well, I, for one, would be willing to vote to replace everything that's broken and then to add additional funds to bring it up to existing code, and then maybe going another step if there's a safety issue that really should be taken care of, even though it's above and beyond the code, but to add more features above and beyond that. I would really like to hear from some of the homeowners to see if they're willing, to spend that money, and if they're willing to actually use those features above and beyond what they have today.
Okay, I'll try to pass on that information to the homeowners in the Parkcrest area, and I'll have them reach out to you, Harmon.
Yeah,
and,
I can send
so
an
that you
email
can get a
out to
consensus.
I have the separate email list for them. I could send
Okay.
out the email list and maybe board, if you want me to, outline the different proposals just in bullets, or saying, here's the features, but if you want this extra, I mean, it's a $5,000 call box. So yeah, it's a chunk, but it is the modern technology, and we can float that and see what they say.
Yeah, I'd like to get their input on the ruffles and the ribbons and bows.
Okay, then we'll do that, and we'll table it until we get more input, and we'll let the board know.
Harmon. What was I going to say?
Oh, it's Art. I'm trying to figure out who's
It's Art,
talking.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Art.
I can't remember what I was going to say, but the the point is that it would be good to make. Oh, I know what it was. I know what it was. It was probably something from our secret meeting last November, and that is, does the gated community have enough in reserves to pay the 25,000?
Yes.
Okay. Because at that point, it seemed to me that if they did not, that the larger community might loan them the money to be repaid.
Yeah, the discussion
As
of
they,
way back then,
pledge.
or there was a discussion at one point last year of actually designing a whole new gates, like like aluminum, different sizes, and that got to be pushed $70,000. And then there was some input from the homeowners on Parkcrest that says, you know what, our gates are okay. We don't need $70,000 gates. We want good operating gates, and we can use the existing metal gates with maybe new hinges and some modifications to make them better. And that's the input I got. So when we were talking, that high of amount, in fact, let me do something here on the screen. The gate reserve is $35,000. So when we're talking 60,000, yeah, they don't have that, but they do have 35,000, which is meant for gates and streets. So that's the balance sheet showing their funding.
Harmon, on a signer, the signature gate
Mhm.
company, they have an 18-month warranty. The other company, Access, has a 12-month warranty. Is that something that's negotiable?
I believe so, but
Okay.
I had to ask them.
Again, just Kyle again on Parkcrest Street. I know another suggestion that we've discussed as homeowners as well is because those gates are very heavy, and over time that's also caused the problem with the anchors because of the length and the weight. Has there been any discussion from any of the four proposals to doing something, say adding like a caster wheel underneath the center of the gates to help support the weight, so the anchors will actually hold up instead of supporting the full weight of the gate?
Good question. That idea was discussed with only access gates
Okay.
in the bigger picture, and the comment that we got back was that actually causes more drag than the beneficial. It's not a weight bearing. It's now the operator has to pull the wheel and pull everything else. Their
Okay.
suggestion, and I have a separate little, I guess I could have put in the whole thing, but I didn't. $1,500 invoice proposal to actually take a section of gate, so shorten the gates a little bit and put heavier hinges on. So that was their suggestion. Take the weight off the end, because right now one of the problems is they touch. They literally touch. I'm sure you know that. That's why there's a little tab there. They're
Right.
saying let's take 3 inches off each side. So it'll put basically you let's see how to say this right. Shorten the gate and put bigger hinges in. So
Right.
bigger hinges force the gates together, and then shorten them so they have less weight, they don't touch. And there'll still be a couple in inches, but not 6 inches or 12 inches between the gates. So if the gates are 2 or 3 inches apart, but they're 6 to 8 inches shorter because the hinges are bigger, pushing them in. That's what their suggestion was.
Okay.
And obviously, I think that should be done. At 1,500 added onto it is, I think, important. So in the context of the whole thing, we ought to think about that type of add-on it across the board, no matter who we have install the operators.
Right. I think I agree with the part of the definitely the heavier rated hinges. I don't know if shortening the gate at 2 or 3 inches is really going to be worth it. I don't think anybody wants to see much like a large gap. If it was minimal, you know, an inch or two, that's understandable. But
Yeah, I think what I expressed it is as a, you know, I don't know what the gap would be, but the intent
Yeah.
was a gap where it doesn't touch. So maybe it's
Right.
1 or 2 inches, but the hinges on either side are, you know, like 3 or 4 inches bigger.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so you take quite a bit off the gate and shove them closer,
Yep. Okay.
and that would take off, I don't know, a couple 100 pounds of metal, which would
Yeah.
be quite a bit.
Yep.
And Harmon,
Okay.
you're gonna put that in that communication to the gated community?
Yeah.
As an option.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on the gates? All right, the next board, we need to set an annual meeting. I was suggesting March 23rd, if that works on your calendar. If not, we'll entertain what other date would be good. The March 23rd gives us enough time to send out requests for nominations, get the nominations back, and send out the ballots and the notice of meeting. So usually about 6 weeks is a good rule of thumb for that. So we could make a little closer, but that kind of goes in our cycle.
March
works for
23rd
me.
works for me.
Is that okay with the rest of the board?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. I don't need a vote on that. Well, maybe I do. Let's do a motion just to make it legitimate. How's that?
I make a motion that we hold the annual meeting on March 23rd at the normal time and place.
Thank you, Art. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have any further board discussion on the motion? We have any homeowner discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstain or nays? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. So that's about it, but we do have a homeowner forum, which usually we have some homeowners that would like to bring up a topic for a meeting coming up, or ask a question and see if we could address it. So
Harmon?
anybody would like to, since we have about 25 people, I think raising your hand and let me recognize you would make it a little easier, unless we don't have very many people that want to talk.
Harmon,
Harmon?
there's a comment. We missed the financial.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We
Oh,
didn't,
oh,
we
oh,
didn't
I'm
approve the
sorry.
minutes or any
Oh,
financials.
let's go back. Boy, did I mess that up? I apologize. Okay, let's go back up to the top. All right, here's the minutes of November 10th. Or they are in your packet. If you'd like to review those, make any edits as necessary. If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Any further board discussion on the motion? Any homeowner discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Job Such, for bringing us back up to the top of the agenda. Sorry, these are important financials. These are the year end. There may still be an adjustment or two, but we're pretty closed on December at this point. So here's our balance sheet for 12/31. I'll go through this with a little more detail, maybe I used to, and then I can answer questions as we get to the end. So in our checking account, and we kind of touched on this earlier, there's a checking account for the overall homeowner association, and then the gate parcel Parkcrest has their own checking account and their own reserve money market. So we have 85,133 in our operating account as of December 31, and the Parkcrest has 4,825. We have 34,944 in the money market reserve account for Parkcrest, and 742,615 in our money market reserve account. AR assessments, that's accounts receivable, money owed by homeowners in actual assessments of 7,608, which for a community this size is pretty good. So that's on the low side. And then we have some other receivables, late fees, legal, collection cost fines, others that total up to $11,245. We have accounts payable of 4,480. That's bills that are in-house in the system. We have not yet cut a check for. And then prepaid assessments. That's exactly what it sounds like. Prepaid by homeowners in advance. Somebody pays a year in advance or a few months in advance. That's the 38,148. Any questions on the balance sheet? Okay, I'll go to our income statement. And I like to go by category, highlight any huge differences, and we look at it as an actual to budget. So for instance, this is the income line, and we are $18,409 good to budget. Don't get too excited. It's not like we found $18,000 because we don't budget for certain income areas. There's no budget for late fees. There's no budget for other income. Other income pays for, bank fees, NSF fees, fees paid by homeowners that then have an associated cost also. So there's usually a offsetting cost to some of these income. The one that I do want to point out, though, that we are short of budget is this reserve fund. So we're $5,200 short of this reserve income. This is from escrow. So there's a contribution to reserves every time a home is sold. And a year and 4 months ago, when we developed the 22 budget, the real estate market was going pretty well, and we estimated how many houses would sell. So we are off by 20%. So 20% houses less sold. I don't remember the exact number, but it was 30,000 for the contribution, and we got 25,000. So we were off by a little bit in that income. So, but income, is looking good. On common, we're significantly under budget in our common. And you can see that, and this is, some wall repair was under budget. You can see that some fence repair was under budget. Now you could say, hey, but we did fix some walls and fences. If they're major, they go into reserves, not into the minor repair of the operational. So we do keep some operational budget for walls. And then there was some sidewalk repair that was operational that had no budget, but still 5,000 good to budget there. On community, we were significantly over budget by $10,000, and you can see all of that was in legal. And you can see, we had other income, but we have some legal issues that we had to take care of last year. Vehicle access gates, this is repair of the vehicle access gates that we just got done talking about. So we budgeted 1,800, we spent 3,000, so we're $1,200 over budget in that area. Insurance, we were over budget by 1,700. That's a very difficult one to budget for, because when we budget, we don't know what the raise in insurance is going to be. And we did have raise in insurance after we had budgeted the amount. In landscaping, the total is beyond this one. So 196 was the actual, 210 was the budget. So we're $14,000 good on landscaping. So a little bit under there. On operations, we were almost $4,000 over, but this is where that miscellaneous or other income comes into play that offsets some of these. So for instance, we have past due statements, collection charges, those have income components on that other income. So if you add those together, it's over 5,000. That's over the differential or what we're off in budget. So if you take those out, we're actually good to budget in the budgeted items for operations. We have a miscellaneous category, and we were over $500 in the miscellaneous. In repair and maintenance, we're 10,005 good to budget, and pest control was a little under. Pest control variables are really beehives. We have a normal pest control contract, but we don't know how many beehives we're going to have during the year, so we do budget a little for that. And then miscellaneous repair was very much under. You can see we budgeted thousand a month and we only spent 1,200 for the year. And signs, we didn't have a budget for signs. We could have put that in miscellaneous repair, but just to show that we spent money on signs, we broke that out. Reserve contribution is right on budget, and it should be. This is a significant item. This is actually money that we move from operations to reserves. So out of the operations and that income, $140,000 went over to reserve funds per budget. So that's a good expense. So just think of it that way. Electric, boy, I couldn't cook the books that's this good. We are $4 under for the year in electricity. So that's really amazing. And water's flat. We know what water is per quarter. So we know that's a budgeted item. So overall in net expenses, we were 11,800 under budget. And of course we had some income that contributes to some of those expenses, but income above budget. So we were $30,000 net to budget in the big picture. So thank you for listening to all my numbers. I'll entertain any questions from the board at this point. Board, any questions? Not a bad year.
Good year, thank you.
No, we had a good board. I only do the
Okay,
budget and the bookkeeping, so.
Are we going to get back on the plants and gravel landscaping projects we had started last year?
That's, imagine, I talked to some of the board members and that didn't come up in the agenda this time. I think you wanted it to concentrate on the landscaping next time when we're in that landscaping season after the winter. That's what I was told. So
Okay.
valid question. Okay, and so board, that's any financial questions? Homeowners, do you have any financial questions on the books or the financials I just went over?
I need to raise your hand.
Oh, we can hear you. Go ahead and speak. Nobody else is talking. You wanted to raise your
Sorry,
hand?
I didn't mean to talk.
Oh, okay. Then I don't hear any questions. So board, we'll entertain a motion.
Joe Bush has a question.
Okay, Joe Bush, go for it. He doesn't have a speaker. Okay, type your questions. I'll read them for you. Oh, he doesn't have a speaker, but you have a microphone? I guess I'll answer him. I'll chat his questions. What? Where you are?
Chat.
What are your questions?
He asked
what happened with the water on the golf?
at the golf course?
Okay, well, the water on the golf course is the $56,000. That's what we pay to Anderson Management for the water that we use. That's the only thing on this financials that has to do with the golf course. Do you have another question? You'll ask it in the form. Okay, thank you. And anybody else? All right, board, will entertain a motion to accept the financials, please.
Does Beth Myers have a hand up?
There's another one. Okay, that's not a financial question. That's a tree question that we'll do in the homeowner forum.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kevin, I think you had a question or statement.
No, I'm just saying that I saw someone's hand was up. Beth Myers' hand was up.
Oh,
I
I don't see a hand up.
lowered it. I have a question for the other form, not the financial form.
Okay, well, this is almost done. All right, board, you want to entertain a motion, please?
I make a motion that we accept the financials as presented.
Thank you, Art. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further board discussion on the motion? Any homeowner discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Well, thanks for all waiting. It is now our opportunity for homeowners forum. You can be the first one to speak, or you can raise your hand. Okay, so I'll read a couple of ones in the text box. Why are we cutting down so many trees on the north side? We have a couple board members on a landscape committee. I'm going to let them answer that.
Or do you want me to answer that?
As we discussed last time, we have a lot of overgrown, or you might call them mature, mesquite trees. A mesquite is a brittle hardwood tree that, given wind and monsoons, tends to split the branches off and they come down. When they come down, they can damage a wall, they can block a road, or worst case scenario, they land on someone's home. And due to the expense of constantly trimming those, there was a proposal from the landscape committee that we would take those out and replace them with the red push trees or pistachio trees, whichever they are. And that basically, by not having to trim those monsters every year, we'd be able to pay for the brand new trees and their maintenance. So that's how we got to where we're at. And unfortunately, I agree with you. Going down Quinn Avenue, it looks like a brand new subdivision with very few trees.
Okay,
that.
we have another in the chat area quote, I would like to know what happened with the meters and that golf course water. Did we ever get anywhere with all of that? That's way before me.
Ron?
That's, the water contract was signed before my wife and I joined the board. We have no clue what happened.
Okay, so there's currently no project for putting water meters on or
That was
or
10
any of
years
that.
ago.
That was 10 years ago. Okay. Another one quote, did we ever hear of the golf course will move forward with night golfing and installing lights in the course? Are there any plans to update or improve play structures in the common areas?
Would Scott like to take 3 minutes and mention what he thinks about that question about the golf course?
So yeah, I mean, essentially, I mean, nothing's been done at this juncture. We've been working through everything we got out of the first meeting. We've put together some mediation.
Scott, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt
no
you.
worries.
Please introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm Scott Anderson, the owner of Greenfield Lakes Golf Course, and we had our first meeting a few months back. It got a little chaotic with a couple of homeowner out there, but post that we had lots of one-on-one discussions with people that stayed around either after the meeting or came in the following week and sat with us. And we went through various amounts of questions and in mediation factors that we could do to squash any of the issues, such as radios being played after dark, beverage carting after dark, all those types of things. And we created a whole list of things of how we would take care of all those issues. We just recently wrote a letter to the board to review to see if it was okay for them, and then that would go out to everyone in the HOA to see what our factors of mediation are to combat issues that the owners have. After that, we would like to have another meeting and put up a set of lights, just temporary lights on a golf hole, so everyone gets an opportunity to see how little affluent light there is outside of the actual play area on the golf course. So everyone can see it for themselves and say, okay, that's not so bad. And with these other factors of mediation that they're doing to correct noise, hooligans, problem people, et cetera, now it's not looking so bad. Along with what we would do as far as and what we think our timeline would be to turn around and take care of all the landscaping, which again, that's not holding anyone hostage on the landscaping. It's just going to take longer based on our current revenue streams to do all the desert landscaping that's going to be needed around the golf course versus if we had the lights. So in a quick nutshell, that's it. But hopefully this letter will make its way out at some point in time and everyone can really see everything that we're going to do before we get to do the light demonstration.
Thanks, Scott. Assuming that the board, and you know how we can be sometimes, doesn't have a lot of suggestions on the letter that you sent as draft, when are you looking at sending that out?
Well, since I don't have, everyone's email, I was hoping that's what the board would kind of forward that out as to everyone. And if you guys have any suggestions on, or say, what about this issue or about that issue, some things I've missed, I'd love to go readdress those in that letter and then get it out as soon as possible, and then schedule for maybe 4 or 5 weeks later in time to get time to get a meeting together for the light demonstration.
Okay. There were some other questions in the chat room that were answered via chat. Do we have any other questions? Anybody? I had some hands up.
I see Kyle and Tess have.
Yep, I'm going to recognize Kyle. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, this is Kyle up at the Parkcrest gated area again. I wanted to bring up a problem that we realized over the summer, that during monsoon season we get the high winds, and we get massive dust clouds from the driving range that destroy everybody's swimming pools. Is there anything being done, Mr. Anderson, to come into compliance with the Maricopa County dust compliance, so that loose material doesn't become airborne and constantly ruin our backyards?
Well, we've had through the neighborhood there was a period of time 4 or 5 months ago, Maricopa County came out 4 or 5 times in about a 6-week period of time, because if a second neighbor calls or a third neighbor calls, even if it's the next day, it comes in as a new complaint, and then they come out and they've assessed the property every one of those times and found no issues at that point in time. Now, personally, what I found, and I hope 90% of it's corrected. I have no real realm of saying corrected, but like today there was a lot of wind this afternoon, and I watched it this afternoon, and the amount of dirt coming, because the wind was going from north to south, the amount of dirt that was coming towards me from the driving range was like 5-10% of where it was a few months ago. What I saw is the ball picker that we're using, that we bought about a year and a half ago, brand new, replaced another one. It seemed to have a lot of force downward, and these wheels that are very thin blades, essentially, that snag balls between them, were kind of digging down. So it created, like, we had about 3 inches of like soil that was very fine on top, and that's the dirt that would just kind of blow like crazy. So we just recently, like a month ago, got rid of that picker. The rains had pushed everything down. Now with the new picker, we're not seeing that silty topsoil come up. It's like the winds today that were blowing pretty good. We did not see anywhere near that kind of dust whatsoever. So I'm hoping that that's going to take care of the biggest percentage of it. If it doesn't, we can look at doing some top dressing of like quarter minus the real fine granite stuff in desert, like desert scaping in areas around desert golf courses, and hopefully that will then take care of the rest of that issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that that information. Appreciate that.
You bet.
We have a question on who paid for the repair at the monument, Greenfield and Warner. Insurance, car insurance. It was a 2-car accident, and we got the partial insurance. I'll just say it that way. So it's not finished yet, but it's on its way. We have the question again, board. Are there any plans to update or improve play structures in the common area?
No plan, right?
No plan.
Apparently it's brought up, and that's something we can put on an agenda for a next meeting. So we'll be glad to put that on an agenda for discussion at that time. Thank you, Drew.
What about Tess?
Tess, come on, Tess. Okay, Tess, go
Hey,
ahead.
I'm here.
All right,
Okay.
the floor is yours, Tess.
Actually, I just have a question. Well, first of all, thank you, Kevin, for bringing up who's going to pay for that gate, because I was really interested in that. But my question is this: you put out the notice for the meeting. Can you also include the agenda at that time so that we know what's going to be brought up? And also after the meeting, is there any way that the residents can have access to what was discussed, and also which would be the agenda, but also what decisions were made?
Okay, I'll handle that, and the board can, if they don't mind, they can chime in. General rule or practice for homeowner association board meetings is not to publish an agenda and ahead of time. The state statute says agenda must be made available before the meeting convenes, and that's why when you came into the Zoom meeting, the agenda is on the screen for you to see before we convene. If we were having a live meeting in a room, we would all show up and we would hand out pieces of paper of agendas. The reason why we don't, because if we publish the agenda, you can't change it. So if we send it out 3 days ahead of time, it's locked, because you can't add something to an already published agenda, because some homeowner would look at it and say, oh, that's the agenda, I'm not going to go to it. And then something got added that was of their interest and that was discussed. So you can't do that. So to give maximum flexibility to the board, we publish it literally before the meeting convenes. Now, it's a board decision if they want to say, okay, we'll lock it X days ahead of time or whatever and send it out or put it on the website. It's perfectly okay to do that. But to gain the flexibility as a management company, we go the other way.
Right. Well, how about afterwards? Because I know people can't always attend. I mean,
Sure.
Now we're down to 6 a year, which is no big deal. But you know, that one night every other month, if somebody has something planned, it's kind of nice to figure out what went on at the meeting.
What we can do, and this is the board directing management to do that, we can put the agenda of that meeting on the website. And after the minutes are approved, like the minutes we approved tonight were from the meeting last time, now approved minutes could be put on the website also.
Right. So how soon after the meeting would residents have access to it? I mean, just like the person asked, why are we cutting down the trees? That was decided, 2 months ago. And had they had access to that, they would have known. So that's why it's kind of nice to, basically it's for accountability, I guess.
Yeah, we can't put minutes up until they're approved. So the minutes of the last meeting, like the minutes tonight of what was decided tonight, won't be up until after the next meeting, but they can literally be the next day. I could put this agenda up tomorrow if that's what the board would like.
Right. Well, that way people would kind of, I think, have a better idea of what's going on in the community.
Of course. Board, do you want to address that and maybe give management a directive to put agendas of the meetings on the website the next day? That's okay with us.
I'd like to think about that before I cast my vote.
All right. We'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
That would be good. Thank you so much.
thanks.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Tess. Okay, I don't see any hands. Anybody else? All right, board will entertain a motion to dismiss or adjourn, excuse me.
Does Beth Myers have her hand up again?
I sure do.
Oh, you did. Wasn't there a second ago? Go ahead, Beth.
You're too quick. You said, is there any hands? And you didn't give me a chance to put my hand up.
All right.
I'm just asking about our park again. We've discussed it on a couple of different calls and there's nothing that we can see that's being done. So still having the same feelings as a community that we're being ignored, and this has got to be resolved. I mean, Raman, you came to my door and we spoke about it. And
Yes.
so I'm just looking for the resolution.
Actually, Beth, I'm glad you're speaking. I was gonna contact another board member with our landscaping to take a look at the park. With all the rain that we had, we couldn't do anything. So what we're gonna do is next week, we're gonna set up a meeting with our landscaping company. We're gonna come in and take a look at the grading one more time, take a look at the drainage. And that's gonna be, and then we're gonna send a bid to the board. We need to add some river rocks where the water drainage is from the wall, where the mesquite tree is. So that part will be taken care. We're on it early next week.
Awesome. And what about the light?
You know, this is something that was a mistake that was, and I love her like a daughter, Naomi, that was with Harmon. We have something in our CCNRs that doesn't allow us to add any lights in common area. That's very directed in the CCNRs. We denied it at the park where the basketball court is. We can't override the CCNRs.
And didn't the survey say that the majority of residents over there, Ron, didn't want the lights?
No, exactly. The
95%.
99% of us said they wanted it.
The 15 families can't override a 785 home community.
It wasn't 15 families. Please do not diminish those of us who did it. You guys do this every time we talk. It's very unfair. It wasn't 15 families.
How many was?
When Naomi talked to me personally about the results, she said 99% was yes. So the fact that you all played off that you didn't know that there was a survey that went out, and now you're trying to change the results that she's already told us about is very aggravating. I'm not okay with being gaslit, and this is unacceptable.
We have 785 homes. 99% of those homes agreed to this.
Naomi said that when the results came from the survey, 99% were in favor of a light at our Ramada.
From the few people that she asked, yes. But to change the CCNRs, you need 75% of the residents to change the ruling. Am I correct? And that's even questionable.
It's that no one has gone out to get the signatures. So you're saying, because a moment ago you said that we cannot change the CCNRs, and now you're telling me 75%, and that's all we need. Well, that's an easy accomplishment if enough of us get together and do it.
You know, that's up to you. If the CCNRs is very clear that no lights in common area.
Beth, he said the board can't change the CCNRs.
So if we want to go out and appeal to our neighbors to get a little light at the Ramada so that we can use the park, it's the one amenity that we have, we can do that, right?
As long as is 75+% of the 785 homes.
Okay, so it sounds like a project for those of us who want that light to get together and get knocking on the neighbors' doors then. And what would happen if we placed our own light there?
I have Harmon.
It would probably be removed.
Okay, so families that have been discussing this and are very passionate about it, sounds like we need to get together and get that changed, because we're not asking for giant lighting like the golf course. We're asking for a tiny light so that we can use the Ramada. And also, Raman, you brought up the point when you came to my home and talked to me about getting a street light there, because it's very unsafe for those of us who do evening walks and jogs.
100%.
Did you get a chance to look into that?
No, actually, I didn't. That's something you need to contact Town of Gilbert. We have no control over that. If Town of Gilbert puts a light, that's great.
So when you spoke to me at my house, you said that you were going to talk to Art because he has experiencing that.
No,
and
I
that
said
you guys
you
would
contact
him.
them. I said you
That's not what you
contact
told me. And that's not what you told me. And I have it on video from my Ring. And my husband was standing right there. You said you would. So it's just another thing that you guys are miscommunicating and gaslighting. It's so aggravating. So what you're telling me now is that I need to take it on personally and myself for the whole community to get a light for safety.
I'm not telling you anything. I'm just telling you our CCNR says no.
You're
That's
saying
all
no
I'm
to the
telling you.
Ramada light, but I'm asking about a street light.
The board can't approve a street light, Beth.
I'm not asking to approve a street light, Art. I'm following, I mean, sorry, not Art, Raman. I'm following up on the conversation we had at my door when you said you were going to talk to Art and that you guys would ask the city to put the light there. Now you're saying that you don't want to do that. So I'm happy to call and make that request to get people on board. That's not a problem.
Okay.
I would just like for your conversations to be consistent. I would like accountability. And when you say something's going to happen, that you do it. And I think that's what the other homeowner was saying. Can we have the agenda and the meetings? Because we feel very lied to and gaslit. And we've talked about this in multiple meetings now. And I would love to have some change.
Yeah. I understand.
Harmon,
Yes.
I do not want to take sides on this issue, but I would like for you to help me clarify the fact that the board members are tasked with holding the CCNRs. And if the CCNRs say no lighting, then we can't approve lighting. And if lighting goes up, then you as a property manager are supposed to take them down. So in order for the lights to go in, there has to be an intermediate step of changing the CCNRs to allow it first, which is totally separate issue of actually getting the lights in. So it's one thing to go around and get the minimum amount of signatures to change the CCNRs, but then we have to go take that and we need to do an official vote to clarify that that really is the way it is. And then we got to go through some sort of paperwork to change the CCNRs. We have to wait for that dust to settle before the lights can go in. How close am I to reality?
Well, you're correct. There's a formal process of changing CCNRs by the membership of the HOA. And once that clause is changed, then you can go forward with doing whatever the clause changed that prevented, whatever it would be. But yes, there's a formal process of changing CCNRs, which is, as Ron mentioned, a percentage that are in the documents that says you need this majority at a special meeting of the members. It can be done via electronic voting or absentee ballot or a special meeting. There's a whole mechanism. And if you would, I'm sorry, man, I don't remember your name. But if you would like to contact me, I would be happy to step you through all the steps of how that could be done.
This isn't my first rodeo. I've done HOA management, so I will be happy to get it started.
Just saying I'd help you out if you want to do the official way of changing the CCNRs.
We can totally get in contact.
Very good.
I have a question
Go ahead.
about the CCNRs being changed. Are you in the process of changing the CCNRs because of the fences, the way that it's wording?
There has been
Is that
discussion. There has been discussions on doing that. It is not currently right now in process, but there has been discussions of changing the CCNRs for how walls are described.
Is
So
it something that you can combine the two?
I'm sorry, I had several people talk at once.
I think we had the same question, like, can we combine the two changes in the CCNRs so that we ensure that everybody's being asked?
It's possible. Yes, you can have multiple changes to the CCNRs. The risk is that they all get denied as opposed to you get one at a time. It's typically done one at a time, but you can combine them. I've also seen ballots that they give you 2 or 3 and say vote 2 or 3, vote for which one you want or don't want. That one, I'd have to ask a lawyer if he really can do it that way according to our documents. So I'll just say it's a possibility, but I'm not the lawyer. We'd have to ask them.
It just seems like if you're collecting signatures, you could just have 2 forms for the signatures and you can ask for both options so that you're not bothering homeowners more than one time.
Yeah, but actually you cannot change the CCNRs by signature or by petition. It actually has to be a formal vote, like when we do the voting you've seen the last couple of years. So it has to be a ballot and notice mailed via United States Postal Service of what the special meeting or written consent is asking for. Here's the proposed changes to the CCNRs. You can have electronic voting for them to vote, or they can mail in their ballot. But you can't go around. It's not a process by petition with signatures on a page.
But I'm saying you could put the two issues as separate issues so that you don't jeopardize one if they don't agree with the other in the same ballot.
I believe so. That's what I said. I would ask the lawyer, but I've seen that done, yes. Kristen, did you have a question? You have your hand up.
Yes, I had one quick question. Hold on. There's that hand down there. Yeah, thank you for everything. I'm just had a curious quick question about the forum, about the way the forum is held, because are small businesses allowed to advertise here on this HOA board meeting?
No, they're not, but Mr. Anderson actually is a member of the HOA.
Well, I understand that. So am I. And I would love to advertise my real estate service in helping everybody sell their homes before the values go down if they ever get lights passed. So you understand my situation.
I understand your point. I believe it was a board member asking Scott Anderson to answer a question that was asked of the golf course. So he answered a question. I would say normally, no, we would not let a member of even with a business or not. Well, I'll just say a member like you or Mr. Anderson, if you wanted to be on the agenda to advertise his business, the answer is no.
Well, and he did it last time. And he keeps on coming up with it. I don't see why he should have the HOA board as a forum to advertise his lights on the golf course. And I would like to request that would be prohibited in the future.
Board, you want to comment on that? I'm not sure what to say.
Well, I'm sorry if that's how you feel it was. There was a meeting between Ronnie and myself, our lawyers, and Scott Anderson, and we discussed all of the points that he mentioned in the meeting tonight. And I asked him, since he was here at the time, if he would just run down what was covered in that meeting, or what's, because he's got it into a draft letter to the board right now. And I just figured it would be more efficient for him to go down through his letter than to have me go through my faulty memory and try to explain where the relationship between the golf course and the HOA board was. So I just did that as a help to myself. I'm sorry if you felt that.
No, it's okay, Art.
I was helping Scott.
No, it's okay, Art. But last time in December, he was already advertising the lights already. That's what my concern is. He keeps on coming on this board meetings and advertising his lights. And, I don't think it's appropriate.
Well, if that's the case, I will remember, and I will not ask him to speak. I'll try to do it myself.
No, if it's necessary for certain reasons, I can understand that if you have to ask him that question. Don't get me wrong. There's a difference between the two. The difference between you asking him a question and him coming and advertising it.
Yeah, well, it wasn't our intent to have him promote the project. The question was, what has happened with the thing with the lights and the HOA? And
by the way, I also like to make a little commentary to Beth. No offense, Beth, but if we're asking everybody here not to put lights at the golf course, I mean, I don't understand why you insist on putting lights at the golf course right next to the golf course. Sorry.
It's not about the golf course. It's about the children and their safety and the people who do their running and their walking and their jogging. And it's about being safe. That is very different than lighting up and keeping people's kids awake because you put lights on the golf course.
Yeah. Well, maybe they shouldn't run around that late at night.
Okay, I think we're beyond
Chris, I will talk
our
to you
productive
later.
discussion at this point. We're off half hour past our agenda. We do have an executive meeting coming up. Board.
But thank you, Art.
Yes.
Would you like to adjourn the open session so we can go to executive?
Yes, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second that.
Do we have any further board discussion on the motion? We have any homeowner discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, homeowners, for attending. We'll ask you to depart now, and we'll gonna go into an executive session per ARS 33-1804 C 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.